Let's do full tongue circles for practicing vowels and proper placement of your voice. We want to use the tongue a lot in English. I already showed you mid-tongue circles where we did just the short U, short O, long E, and ER. And it sounded like ire, ire, ire. Now let's fill in the tongue circle with the rest of the vowels. Always start with short U, where your tongue is neutral and relaxed. Notice how the mid-tongue is concave and very relaxed. I explained that in the previous lesson. Then you drop your tongue and open your mouth. Put your tongue at the bottom of your mouth. Ah, ah. The tongue will be a little bit tenser, as you can see that the tongue is a little thinner in the short O picture versus the short U picture where it's thicker and flatter. From short O, here's my bottom teeth right here, and here's short O. And for short A, I'm going to push the tongue forward until it hits the bottom teeth, and then it keeps going and causes the tongue to bend. Ah, 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 ah. Notice that for short O, the tip of the tongue does not touch the front teeth. But for short A, you push your tongue forward to touch the bottom teeth. At the same time, the mid-tongue rounds and bends forward. Ah, 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 ah. Let's practice going between the short O and the short A with a couple of words. We'll say, Mom asks. Mom asks. Ah, ah. Ah, ah. Notice that you can see my tongue really well when I get to the short A. Ah, ah. That's because the front of my tongue is bending so that you can see this part of the tongue. Now from ah, let's continue along the red circle. We're always going to be pushing toward the outer edge of the circle. And the next vowel up is the long A. So we go from ah to a. My chin and my jaw come up a little because the mouth is not as open, and the tongue bends a little bit more. So we have ah, ah, a. A. A sounds just like the A in the alphabet. Ah, ah, a. Try not to use the cheeks too much. We're trying to rely on the tongue at least 90%. Ah, ah, a. Really think about the tongue. That's how you get an American accent. Now for the word, let's use Abe, which is short for Abraham, as in Abraham Lincoln. And we'll say, Mom asks Abe. Mom asks Abe. And as you do that, feel how your tongue goes ah, ah, a. And you're moving to the extremes along that red circle. Now we also need to be able to go in the reverse direction. So let's try Abe asks Mom. Abe asks Mom. Abe asks Mom. Let's go to the next vowel up the circle on the upper left-hand side. It'll be long E. So if this is ah, ah, a, E, E is even higher. The tongue is higher, the jaw is a little higher, and the tongue is a little more bent, more bending. So we have ah, ah, a, E. E. Make your tongue very high. Your mouth could be almost closed, but we already showed how you can do this with your mouth rather open. E. Ah, ah, a, E. Just a little more closed than the previous vowels. Now let's go between long A and long E. Abe eats. Abe eats. My mouth is just slightly more closed for the long E, and the tongue is a little more bent. Notice in the picture on the left that long A starts lower at position 1, but it actually ends where the long E is. So it's pronounced A, where the second half sounds more like an E, or possibly a short I. By the way, if you want to practice bending your tongue, let's try this. I keep the tip of my tongue behind the bottom teeth, and then I send the middle of the tongue out of my mouth like a parachute. If you can do that, you'll have no trouble doing the long E. Now let's do Abe eats and then reverse it. Eat Abe, eat Abe. Now it's time to go across the circle to the right-hand side, where our tongue is no longer going to be bending at the front. Instead, it's going to pull backward. So let's pull the tongue backward. We're going to go to which we've already done in the previous lesson. The tongue is very high, and the sides of the tongue touch the inside edges of your top molars. Let's go from E to Ear, ear. We can even go from long A to So if this is ear, then this is air, air, ear. Next, if we keep moving right along the red circle, we have long U. Now long U is at the same jaw height as the long E. So if we have E, we just stop bending, pull the tongue straight backward to oo. Pull your tongue back all the way as far as it'll go. E-oo, e-oo. You could do oo with really tight lips, like ooh. And sometimes we do that, especially if we want to be very dramatic. But we don't want to do that all the time. So we want to rely on the tongue more than the lips. So for the long U lips, I'm going to keep my top lip neutral. And my bottom lip will come up until the outsides touch the top lip, and I will gently round the bottom. Ooh. The work is mostly done by pulling the tongue all the way backward. So let's go between E and oo so we can feel the jaw at the same height. E-oo, e-oo. And let's try the other way. Ooh-ee, ooh-ee. And let's also practice between and long oo. So is very high in the mouth, and oo is lower, but the tongue tip is angled down. Is flat, oo is lower with angled down. So ooh, ooh, or ooh, ooh, So if I say the word chewer, as in the dog is a strong chewer, then I go chewer, ooer, chewer. You do have to put the W sound in between oo and so that they'll link smoothly together. We can also go between chew and long E by saying chewy. The vegetable is very chewy. Chewy, chewy. When you go from chew to E, you also add a W. But if we went from E to oo, we would add a Y. E-U, P-U. P-U means ooh, stinky. P-U. That requires a Y to link them together. Now let's continue along the circle. Next we have long O. So O is just a little bit lower than oo. We do the same thing with our lips, but the mouth will be a little bit more open. Instead of O, very dramatic, we can just go O, where the top lip is neutral and the bottom lip is more gently rounded. So let's try long U first and then long O. Ooh, oh, ooh, oh. And when you finish the long O, you actually go back to the long U to close it off, especially if it's at the end of a sentence or the end of a word that we're stressing. So we have ooh, oh, oh. So for example, we have the word bow. At the end of bow, my lips are even closer together, like they would be for the long U. Bow. That's how we will create intonation when we want to stress that word. Next, we go down to the short back O. So the short back O is very low, just like the short O and the short A. The short back O is actually not very far away from the short O, and not all Americans even do the short back O. So if we do it, we keep it very mild and very similar to the short O. But we will bring our tongue down low and pulled back. The lips will be oval in shape. Ah, ah. And then short O is just ah. So we have ah, where the tongue is flat and down, and then we have ah, where we pull back, but we still keep it down. And when you pull back, the tongue is a little angled again, because the back vowels have the angled tongue with the tip pointing downward. Notice that the short O on the left has an unrounded lip shape, but the short back O on the right has an oval lip shape. Now let's practice all of the vowels on the circle for an exercise, starting at the bottom of the circle. Ah, ah, a, e, oo, o, ah, ah. Notice how your tongue travels in a circle around your mouth. Again, ah, a, e, oo, o, ah. Make sure you practice with my repetition audio so that you can keep doing these exercises. The exercises will make your tongue stronger and keep the placement in the middle of your mouth. Now, just for fun, let's see where the short vowels fall on this circular map. We already have short A and short O here because they're pretty extreme for the tongue movement. But I included 3 other short vowels that do not have extreme movement, and they're all centered around the short U. They're all relaxed, just like the short U, with a very gentle tongue movement, a very subtle difference from the short U. Let's start with short I. Short I is on the path between short U and long E, but don't go nearly as far as the long E. So you have and then you have E. And you need to go somewhere between that for short I. So E, E, E. So it's a small movement from to I. You just very gently lift up this front portion of your tongue. Keep it relaxed. There's still no tension under your chin. But if you go all the way to E, you'll feel tension here under your chin. Next, let's look at the short E. It's on the path between short U and short A, but much closer to short U. So we have The mouth is halfway open, very much open for the short E. It's not that different from short U, but you do have to lift this up. You will slide the tip of your tongue slightly forward. Not as much forward as you would for short A. So the tongue tip touches the bottom teeth, but it doesn't really push against the bottom teeth because it's very relaxed. For the last short vowel to examine, let's look at short back U. It's on the path between short U and long U. So we have ooh. You pull back a lot for ooh, but just a teeny bit for the short back U. Ooh. And the lips are very slightly rounded for the short back U. Do you see the minor movement in my lips? This is the end of part 1 on full tongue circles. Part 2 will place the 3 moving vowels or diphthongs on the circle and provide example sentences that can be used as exercises. Finally, part 3 will show reverse tongue circles and example sentences.